New episode of Serial for this month of August 2023. So as every month, I talk about the photos I took or edited in the previous months. So we're taking on where we were last time. I was in Iceland, and that's a flight over the volcano, the latest volcano that was active on the southwest coast. That's actually its last or 2 days before it stopped, and it was really interesting. Last year, I had taken pictures of the volcano that was starting, not the same one. This time, I wanted to see how it ends, and yeah, here are pictures taken with the Leica SL2 body and a Sigma art lens, 105mm f2.8. Very nice rendering for this lens, quite practical. Again, for those two pictures, that's SL2. The picture on the left, that's the day after, because the day after I returned, I did I don't know how many hour walk to go see the volcano and try to document it a little bit for a series. And that's the image on the left. That's the people overlooking the volcano. That's taken with a Sigma f5-6.3 100-400 lens, a great lens, contemporary rendering. Sigma has different lines, and that was a doubler. You have a doubler that actually doubles it to 200-800, but also that has an effect on the aperture, of course. And on the right, that's again the day before was the 105mm lens, the lava field. Here, going still again with the Sigma 105mm lens the day before. Also, we took a few pictures of the volcano from 2 years back, which is obviously still warm, very warm actually, but not as fiery, and gives for really interesting textures. Really beautiful sceneries. Here are two pictures of still we're in Iceland. We're at Thingvellir National Park. I'm testing this 100-400mm contemporary line Sigma Sigma contemporary lens. Two pictures taken with it. Interesting rendering, very practical, quite compact actually, and not that heavy. It's definitely not a lightweight, but it's not that heavy, and with the doubler, it's quite versatile. Again, here, same lens, doing some touristy stuff. Basically, that's in the Bay of Reykjavik, and that's a humpback whale. One of the images I took. Not very interesting per se, but I was testing this lens, so it was a really good occasion. And using the doubler and the maximum focal range, basically 800mm. The mountains in the back, you can see what you can have on the right. So you can really have some interesting creative stuff going with this lens. It's also not that expensive for what it is, so a really great lens. I'll probably do a video about it in the future. And here we're going back to something else, film. So like every time I do film, usually I need to finish the roll and then develop the film. I obviously don't develop it myself yet, so I have to wait for it to come back. And that's from Arles, so it's basically the first week of July. But yeah, the images taken from the festival, this huge photo festival, using Contax T 135 camera with Flic Film Elektra, basically Kodak aerocolor 100 ISO film. A film I really like. I find very precise, very interesting rendering. Really enjoy it. I like Pro Image 100 too. 100 also. But this one, hopefully Flic Film continues distributing this film. And that's details of the city of Arles, when you wander around. Again, here are two other pictures of the city of Arles during the festival. And then switching to some other film. Still, we're staying on film. That's a Rollei Redbird film used on a Leica M5. It's a 400 ISO color film, which is basically exposed from the back of the negative. Rollei, if I understood well, turns the film around, and the back layer gives this red tonality to the image that then projects on the emulsion layers that are behind. So yeah, on the left, it's a picture of a flamingo behind a fence. Hard to say, but once you try to look at the details, you may recognize him. He's looking at us. And on the right, it's pieces of wood just standing there. I did experiment also with... you have this very red-black rendering sometimes. But as you can see here, obviously there's some green, there's some red. Not much blue. Not sure where the blue goes. But when you do urban scenes, that's in the vicinity of Geneva, you get some really interesting renderings. Again here, the countryside, how the skies glow. Quite experimental, quite controlled too. I did underexpose. It's stated as 400 ISO. I think you should probably push it a little bit more. Overexpose it a little bit more. Here again, this picture from the Jura Mountains. It's a border between France and Switzerland. You get those really interesting renderings. I've also tried putting it in black and white, but I have no example here. And interesting emulsion. Still film. Lots of film this month. Here it's medium format, so lots of definition, using lomography, color negative 400 ISO film. A film I really started enjoying. I like the color rendering, quite precise, pretty resistant to my exposure imprecision. And that's on a Linhof Teknika 6.12 camera with a 45mm lens, which is basically wide angle on this camera. I really like this ratio of 1:2. And using that kind of film, it's really something you can't have with digital cameras of yet. Yeah. And that was the occasion. Here was I'm trying to do a new series of video about landscape photography, travel photography, wandering photography, and those photos are going to come back with some adventures going on. I'm going to try to do something fun. Same moment, basically, using another camera. That's also part of that video that's going to come up. But that's using this Olympus XA1 camera, focus-free, and Pro Image 100 film. I was talking about it before. I really like that film. Here we don't have the definition, obviously, of the Linhof Teknika camera, but it was an interesting day. Still film, going to APS film, a format that's deceased, but which I love. I have lots of expired rolls still. Hopefully somebody does reproduces modern emulsions in APS film rolls soon, because we have some incredible cameras, and that's the Fujifilm Photonex 1000 IX, also known as Tiara, with its 24mm Fujinon lens, super compact camera. Really nice. I like how I can take weird pictures with it. The flash works great. Here it's used on the picture on the left and the one on the right, not in the middle. But you really can capture interesting moments with such a compact camera. It's kind of telescopic. It's go check it out online. I'll probably do also a video about it. But yeah, APS film, I love it. Also, here going back to the north, Iceland, Reykjavik, the 101 neighborhood, that's super central. And that was to test the Asthoi 50mm f2 lens. I don't know what the relationship is with 7 Artisan, but they're on the same website. So I'm not sure it's part of the lines that 7 Artisan proposes, or if it's very separate. But nonetheless, this lens has a really interesting formula, very neutral, but really nice rendering. It's a cheap lens to buy. Economically speaking, it's really great. It's more than nice. And again, 2 images, details of Reykjavik, the super central 101 neighborhood. Or here on the left, in low light situations, that's Anayona restaurant. It's rather new. I like the ambiance. I like the looks. The food is not bad too. It's actually pretty good, and they make good cocktails. So if you're in Reykjavik, it's an interesting experience. And on the right, for those who don't know the north and Reykjavik, it's kind of the south vibes when the sun comes out and everybody does apéro, like in France or in Italy or in Spain. Probably like in every other country when the sun comes out. But yeah, just the picture on the right is taken with the Sigma Art 105 f2.8 lens. gives an idea of this kind of ambiance that you can find in town. Going to another technology, that's the Foveon sensors. Those sensors that don't use the Bayerian transformation, which is basically any other digital camera, color camera on the market. It's made by Sigma. They have the technology. It's a rather old. That's a Sigma DP3 Merill, but it's a true Foveon sensor, which means each pixel captures the color. The layers are one atop of each other, like in film. You don't need to do the mathematical conversion of the pixels, the red, green, and blue components of the pixel that everybody else does. And I had read about it. I've already talked also about it, but it definitely feels like film. Even if the sensor hits 15 megapixel, it's basically 3 layers of 15 megapixel for each, for the red, the green, and the blue. I think it's the opposite actually, on the blue first, green, and then red. But rendering, even in low light situation like this, is quite phenomenal. The micro contrast is great. It feels good for me. Maybe not the fish here. It's a dried fish, probably a frozen fish because we're in the Vaud state of Switzerland. Probably a frozen fish, and it's sort of both sides sort of opened up and it dried on the street, so it looks like a roadkill. It was kind of weird in that sense, and graphically I thought it was kind of interesting. Again, the Foveon sensor, the color rendering, maybe grainy in low lights, but yeah. And here's the combination. Sorry, it's not the DP2 Merill, it's the DP3 Merill. This lens is just phenomenal. It's a 75 millimeter equivalent because the sensor is an APS-C, but it's very enjoyable to use, and I really like the rendering. I really think you see the difference. Here it's the DP2. So Sigma had this line where you couldn't change the lenses, but you could buy those compact bodies with this great sensor. You had the DP1, which is basically wide angle, the DP2, which is those two pictures, 45 millimeter equivalent for full frame, and the DP3 we saw before, which is 75 millimeter equivalent. And yeah, the rendering, I really like it. That's in Alton during the International Photo Festival Alton. Nice ambiance. It was warm, and there's a river, and everybody goes there to drink. Really nice. Again, those two pictures. That's in I think it's Laufendorf, a small town in I think it's a state park near Alton. That's a German side of Switzerland. Really nice. And again, the technical rendering of this sensor, I really enjoy. Here, that's a view of the same region I'm talking about, but from the mountains, from the Jura mountains. And that's using the TT Artisan 100mm f2.8 bubble bokeh lens that just came out, a few months back. But I take months to test my lenses. I don't like just... makes no sense for me if I would just test lenses. I need to have fun with them. And that's, Laupersdorf. The village of Laupersdorf, just above it. It's this state park, and that was also the occasion to do one of those stories I'm trying to do in video. Here, 2 more detailed images taken with this bubble bokeh lens. When you don't have those very separate field of views and lighting conditions, you actually don't see the bubble bokeh. You have to have those kind of conditions like you'd see on the right. Even on the left, it's kind of hard to... You do see it, but you really need this very defined focal planes to feel the bubbles. But you definitely see it, as you can see on the right. Very precise lens, by the way, if you look at the fruit. Here again, the same lens. That's back in Alton. On the left, a storm, and a detail of the city on the right. So it's a lens that doesn't bubble that much when you use it differently. Here, another lens, one that I'm testing to right now. That's the Light Lens Lab 50mm f2, the Speed Pancro, again in Alton during the festival. It's a recreation of a cinema lens of the 1940s. I find it very precise. A small glow that adds to the charm of the lens, but I really think it's interesting how it renders. It's probably a recreation of the original lens, but with modern coating technologies. So lots of character, very enjoyable lens. I'll probably do a complete review of it in the future. Here, 2 images where I I just thought could be nice to show something interesting. I often have more than one camera with me. Here I had the DP2 Merill, the Sigma, 45mm equivalent with the Foveon sensor. And on the right I had the SL2 Leica full frame camera. And I was using, I've been using for many months now, the Hektor. It's an old lens from 1935 from Leica, kind of a pancake lens, 28mm f6.3. And I thought it was interesting to see same scene, same place, same moment, how different all those technologies can be in rendering a very different scene. Anyways, in my opinion. And I really like this Hektor 28mm lens. It vignettes a lot, but really nice. Again, going with the Hektor 28mm, even in low light situations with the modern sensor, you're kind of okay. You boost the ISOs. Very nice flares too. Lots of character in this lens. Lots of glow, but yeah, nice. I actually like it. I really like it, and makes my camera very compact. They're hard to find, however. Here again, the Hektor on the left. You see this huge amount of vignetting. I didn't retouch. I usually don't retouch my photos. And that's the Reykjavik Bay on a very calm early morning. On the right, that's still the SL2 camera. I'm going to start not saying it's SL2 when I don't state it. It's SL2 usually. And that's using this bubble bokeh lens. Not that bubbly, but nice rendering. It's near Keflavik. Still nice one. And the two last picture for this month for Serial. Taken from a plane, the Icelandic southern coast. Here I dehazed in post-prod because of the window, the airplane window, which hazed quite a bit. The lens is kind of glowy. It works well. Won't be my first choice of lens, but it's got character. And it's not that bubbly and works. Most of the time it's not bubbly, so it's actually a nice lens to use. Nice to handle and character. So anyways, hopefully we'll have some interesting stuff next week. And next week we'll have some about other things, but for next month we'll have probably other cameras. Hopefully that was enjoyable. Don't hesitate to post comments, questions, whatever below, and catch you next time.